Okay, guys, today's lesson is going to be continuing the properties of logarithms. So I'm going to go through numbers 3 and 4. So for number 3, we're continuing on with solving the equations using logarithms. So we did this a couple days ago. So there are two different things that can happen when you solve equations using logs. You either have a log on both sides of the equation, or you only have a log or logs on one side of the equation. So the first one you're going to see, you only have the log on one side. Now, things have not changed from before. I had said on the previous lesson, if you only have the log on one side of the equation, you have to rewrite it in exponential form. So we are still going to do that. However, we have to use our properties to condense each side of the equation before we can rewrite them or solve them like we're going to do in B and C. All right, so first things first, I use my property because I cannot solve this if I have more than one log on either side of the equation. So for A, I'm going to use the product property to condense the left side of the equation. So when I use the product property, since I'm adding here, I would multiply. So I have log base 6 of x times x minus 9 equals 2. Okay, I condensed it so that I only have the log on one side. So now again, log on one side, I rewrite it in exponential form. So if I wanted to write this in exponential form, I'm always taking the value. Now, if you remember from the last lesson, since I'm just doing an equation, it actually does not matter which side of the equation you put either of these on. So I take the value. So this is my value, x times x minus 9. And I set it equal to, it's the log base 6 raised to the exponent of 2. And now I have an equation to solve. So distribute x squared minus 9x equals 36. It's a quadratic, so you're going to have to factor it. Okay, now you have to remember to check your answers. So your answers would be 12 and negative 3. However, the negative 3, when I plug it in here, I cannot have the value that's negative, so that doesn't work. So x equals 12 is my only solution. Okay, so just to go over that one more time, I condensed the left-hand side. And then since there was only a log on one side, I rewrote it in exponential form and solved it. Okay, now if you take a look at B, you'll notice that you have the log on both sides of the equation. I still have to condense everything first. So on the left side, I have this 2 here. I use the power property to rewrite it as log base 7 of x squared. On the right side, I don't have to use the product property. However, I have to use, the power property. However, I have to use the product property. So I now have the log base 7, and I'm taking the 27 and the 3, and I'm multiplying them. So of 81. All right, these are usually the easier ones because since we have the log with the same base on both sides of the equation, I just take the two values and I set them equal. So x squared equals 81. When I take the square root of both sides, I would get x equals plus or minus 9. However, the negative 9 does not work. So it's only x equals positive 9. Okay, you should try to do C on your own first. Pause this, try it, and then pick it up again afterward. So I used the quotient property because of the minus sign. And now again, I have the log on both sides. So I take the two values and I set them equal. Cross multiply. So x equals 8, which is good. Positive 8, positive x value, you're good to go. Okay, the second type of problem that we're going to do is we're going to use the properties to find the values that I gave you without using a calculator. So I didn't give you the log base 6 of 15. I only gave you log base 6 of 3 and log base 6 of 5. So you have to write the values using only 3s and 5s, and then you use the properties. So I don't know log base 6 of 15. So instead, I can rewrite it as log base 6 of 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15, and I want to use 3s and 5s only. Once I rewrite it, then I use the properties. So this becomes log base 6 of 3 plus log base 6 of 5. I have each of those values. So I really just have 0.61 plus 0.9. And then I just add them together. So the value is 1.51. Okay, so again, I'm rewriting the value using only a 3 and a 5 because that's all I gave you. Now, there are multiple ways to do these. I'm going to do this one just to use another property. So I'm going to rewrite 9 as 3 squared. Okay, you could write it as 3 times 3. It's the same thing. But just to use another property, so now I can use the power property. So I bring this 2 out front, and I really have the log, 2 times the log base 6 of 3. I know log base 6 of 3 is 0.61. So I take 2 times 0.61, and I have 1.22. Okay. C, now I have log base 6 of 5 over 3, so I'm just showing you we can use the quotient property, so it becomes log base 6 of 5 minus log base 6 of 3. Quotient turns into minus. I have the two values, and I just fill them in. And then the last one, so now I have to make a 75. So maybe you're starting to think 75 would be 25 times 3. And a 25 is a 5 squared. So I'm able to write 75 just using 5s and 3s. So I really just have the log base 6 of 5 squared times 3. Which is the log base 6 of 5 squared plus log base 6 of 3. Use the power property to bring this down. And then fill the values in. And then you can just do that math. So that's 1.8 plus 0.61. So you get 2.41. Okay, so you should be able to finish off the homework assignment now.